Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I will be showing you my macaron recipe and how to get the perfect macaroons every time. So stay tuned and learn more. So we want to start off with our ingredients. We have 100 grams of icing sugar, 100 grams of almond flour, 2 separate containers of 35 grams of egg whites, and then 100 grams of regular sugar. You're going to have a sieve and put that over a bowl. Put that icing sugar in that sieve and you're going to sift that through really well. Make sure you get all the lumps out so that you're not getting big clots of anything anywhere. Then you're going to do the same thing with the almond flour. You will have some larger lumps in the almond flour that won't pass through the sieve, so just throw those out. Then you're going to take 1 container of 35 grams of egg white and put that in that mixture of the almond flour and the icing sugar. You're going to fold that in really well until you get a thick paste. You don't want it too wet, you don't want it too dry, just kind of somewhere in between. Once you get that paste that you are wanting, you're going to take your mixer bowl and pour your other container full of 35 grams of egg whites in that container. Put it on the stand mixer with the whisk attachment and go ahead and start that. Then you're going to get a saucepan with sugar. Put that 100 grams of sugar in that saucepan with 25 milliliters of water. You also want to make sure that you have an infrared thermometer so that you can measure that heat. What we're trying to do is get this sugar up to 244 degrees so that when we pour it on the side of the mixer bowl, it will bring the eggs to a safe eating temperature. So again, that is bringing this sugar up to 244 degrees. What I find easier is that while we're heating this up, use a whisk and keep that sugar moving, because if you don't, then the temperature won't be accurate and you're just measuring the temperature on top and then you can burn your sugar. So once it's up to 244 degrees, pour it on the side of the mixer bowl and keep it mixing. Keep it mixing until you get it room temp. Once this is room temp, you should have your meringue. How you know that the meringue is correct is you have stiff peaks, as I'm pointing right here. You're going to bang that excess on the side of the bowl, and then you're going to take your mix that you had earlier with the almond flour, the sugar, and the egg whites, and then your meringue. And you're going to take that meringue and simply fold it in, but don't put it all in at once. You're going to do it about a third at a time. So you see here I'm taking the meringue and I'm folding it in. Make sure to fold and do not mix. The more you mix this almond flour, the more the almonds will release its oil and it'll change the consistency of the batter, and then you'll just get runny batter and the macaroons will not rise. Keep folding in that batter and again, take more of that meringue and add it to that macaroon batter and just fold it in. What we're wanting is a looser but more sturdy consistency, more of like a paste. What I always like to say is use the 3-second rule. So if you take this consistency and this batter and you put it on your spatula and let it drip, you're wanting to count to 3, and by the time you count to 3, you want it to basically start dripping or drip all the way down. That's how you know that you have the right consistency for your batter. So once all the meringue is incorporated, here you go, 1, 2, 3, and we're done. So that's how you know the batter is correct. Okay, now that we have our batter, it's time to color our macaroons. Now there's no rhyme or reason of how to color your macaroons or how many colors you need to do. It's just whatever you feel like doing or whatever your recipe calls for. I am separating these into 2 separate containers because I'm going to do 2 different colors. So I did half of the batter in one bowl and then half of the batter in another bowl. Again, with the mixing, when you are incorporating colors, only add 1 to 2, maybe 4 drops tops of food coloring. And when I say food coloring, I mean gel food coloring. That's it. If you add too much food coloring, I find that it changes the consistency of the batter and it doesn't allow the macarons to rise and get what we call its feet. So here's my gel food coloring. I'm using those 2. I'm going to put those drops in and I'm going to fold the batter in again. Keeping in mind, I'm not stirring it like crazy because the more you stir, the more the almonds will release its oil and change the consistency of the batter. So a little mixing like this is okay, but don't go crazy like you would stirring buttercream or something like that. So I want it just a little bit darker, so I added that 3rd drop there, but that's going to be it with that batter. After that, I'm going to move on to the next one and just get the color palette that you like. Like I said, there's no rhyme or reason to this. Just make sure you get that color that you're wanting. And here I'm just mixing up that other color. So I decided to go with that purple and kind of a turquoisey color just to be bright and cheerful. So now what we're going to do is put our piping bag into a tall container. I have a vase here, which seems to come in handy for me. It's just is able to keep your hands free and it's a lot less messy. So you just fill up your piping bag, twist the top, because when you have your macaron batter, the more it stays in the air, open in the air, then the more that it has that tendency to crust over, which we'll talk about in a minute. So fill up both your piping bags and then twist the top. And now we're ready to pipe. So what we want to do is cut a small little hole, and I have these non-stick silicone mats here. You can just use some pans with some parchment paper and that would be fine as well, but I find that these are a lot easier for my macarons and they don't stick, so I swear by these. So you're just going to pipe kind of in that center circle. You're going to want to go in a circular motion, and then you're going to end off with a little flick. That way you don't have a little peak at the top, because nobody wants to see a macaron with a dome at the top or a peak or something like that. You're wanting smooth, nice, flat cookies with little feet at the bottom, and that's what is ideal. So now that everything is piped, you're going to bang the tray about 3-4 times. This gets all the air bubbles out, and then we just let them sit for about 20 minutes. What the reasoning for this is, we want it to have a skin over it, so that when you do it, nothing comes off of your fingers. So now we're going to start with the batter. We have our 45 grams of egg yolks. We have 90 grams of your sugar and 125 grams of butter. So our egg yolks that we use from our egg whites, remember, never throw anything away. Don't be wasteful. So the egg whites that we used earlier and we separated, use the 45 grams of egg yolks, put them in your mixer bowl. Put that on the stand mixer with the whisk attachment. You're going to put your sugar in your saucepan, and again 25 milliliters of water. Put that on your saucepan about medium to high heat, and again you're just wanting to cover that top of that sugar, and you're going to stir it again and keep whisking, and you want that heat to get to 244 degrees. Then you're going to turn down that mixer, which you should see a little fluffy, your eggs getting fluffy by that time. Slowly pour it down the side of the bowl again, and then turn it all the way up. Once it is room temperature, it should look something like this. Once it's room temperature, you can start adding your butter. So turn down your whisk, and you're going to slowly add in the butter. I like to add it in cube by cube. That way it kind of gives the mixer time to incorporate the butter, but it also lets me feel each piece of butter, and I know that it's soft and good consistency, because if the butter's too hot, it's going to melt that buttercream. But if it's too cold, then it's not going to incorporate as well. So after all the butter is incorporated, you want to crank that up to a high heat, and then you know it's done when it starts pulling away from the sides like it is right here. Then I'm just going to add some vanilla. You can add any flavor that you want to. I just decided to be simple and add some vanilla. Mix it again, and then you should get something that looks like this. Bang the excess off the whisk, and then I like to mix it with my hand. This just kind of incorporates everything. So I use my spatula, get everything off the sides, and then beat out all that excess air, any air bubbles, and make sure everything is incorporated very well. So now that our filling is complete, we're going to move back on to the macaroons. So they've been out, they've been sitting, and now they have what we call a skin over them. So if I touch them like I'm about to right here with my fingers, you can see that no batter is coming off on my fingers at all. So that is how we know that they have set and they're ready to go into the oven. So I always place them in the oven, and you're going to put them on about 275 degrees, and they're going to sit for about 12 minutes and then check them. Once they are done, and how you know that they're done is you can grab the top and give it a little wiggle. If it doesn't wiggle, it's good. So you want to see that you have the feet here that I'm pointing at and a solid bottom. Then what you want to do is pair up each macaroon to make sure that they are identical. There's no rhyme or reason to this, just whichever you look good. Then flip over one side, and then what you'll do is grab your piping bag, and what you want to do is pipe a circle, the same motion that we did before when we were doing the circular motion and the flick. Do the same thing inside your macarons, but make sure you have a small little border. Like, you're not going all the way to the end of the macaron. You want some space there. That way when you smush it together, the filling doesn't completely come and spill out the ends, because you want it to look nice. After all, it is macaron. So here I'm just finishing up some of the piping. I wanted to add a little bit more filling just to make them fuller. So you'll take the other side of the macaron shell and simply place them together and kind of smush them down a little bit until the filling comes out to the side, just like that. So continue doing this with all of your macarons until they are all completely filled. Now you can always add fillings to your macarons as well. Some lemon macarons, you can use some lemon custard, you can do some strawberry fillings, some ganache. The possibilities are endless on what you could do. But these, like I said, are just simply vanilla, just for tutorial purposes. And I'm just piping around the edges. Sometimes you may notice that you don't have enough buttercream, like I'm noticing here, and I wanted them a little bit more fuller and taller, so I just added a little bit more, and I thought that looked a little bit more pretty. Now once the macaroons are set, since these are buttercream filled, they will need to be in the fridge. Macarons that have ganache in them, they really don't need to be in the fridge. They can be set out at room temp as long as it's not a hotter climate, but these would need to be put and stored in the fridge. But that is it. That is my foolproof macaron recipe. I would love to know if you try this recipe, so subscribe to my channel and like it if you found this helpful. And if you would like to see more tutorials or any cake designs or anything, put put it in the comments below. Thanks. See you soon.